Hello and welcome to the Myositis Association's Empowerment Clinic on Self-Hypnosis for Pain Management. My name is Rachel Bromley and I am TMA's Senior Manager of Patient Education, Support, and Advocacy. Today we have the honor of hosting Dr. Joyce Mills, founder of StoryPlay Global, award-winning play therapist, author of 8 books, and considered an expert in metaphorical interventions. Dr. Joyce Mills is an internationally recognized storyteller, consultant, workshop leader, program development specialist, and keynote speaker to medical, psychological, and educational organizations. With resiliency and creativity at its heart, Dr. Mills developed StoryPlay, a new Ericksonian indirective model of play therapy, helping children, adults, families, and communities heal from trauma and disaster. In addition to her training programs, Dr. Mills is a co-director of the Phoenix Institute of Ericksonian Therapy, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and a registered play therapy supervisor. Her books include Therapeutic Metaphors for Children and the Child Within, Reconnecting to the Magic of Life, Butterfly Wisdom, Little Tree, Gentle Willow, and Sammy the Elephant and Mr. Camel. She is award-winning co-author of Therapeutic Metaphors for Children and the Child Within. In 2014, the Arizona Association for Play Therapy recognized her with the Distinguished Service Award during their 19th annual state conference in Phoenix, Arizona. In 2014, in Paris, France, she was recognized for her lifelong work and contributions to the field of multicultural hypnotherapy. She is the recipient of the 1997 Annual Play Therapy International Award for an outstanding career contribution to the field of child psychology and play therapy. Thank you for being here, Dr. Mills.
Thank you. Thank you. You forgot to add and loves chocolate.
And loves chocolate. Also joining us.
What are you an expert on? I say chocolate.
Right. Also joining us today is Fiona Ratkoff. Fiona is French and American, has been living in France since the age of 16. She has dedicated her professional life to the French national education system. She developed DM with MDA5 antibody in 2014 at the age of 48. Her first symptoms appeared very quickly in a matter of weeks and were linked to muscle weakness and swollen joints. ILD set in a year later. As the pain clinic had a 1-year waiting list, she decided to look into the functioning of pain and alternative ways of dealing with it. She turned to self-hypnosis because it was positive, efficient, depended on no one, could be done anytime and anywhere, and was free. She also did not want to take more drugs than the ones she was already dealing with. Self-hypnosis has no side effects. Among the books that helped her were 2 of the books written by Dr. Joyce Mills, Therapeutic Metaphors for Children and the Child Within, as well as Reconnecting to the Magic of Life. Fiona, thank you for being here.
Thank you. And you forgot to add, I love chocolate too.
Well, then all 3 of us, we are good to go. I have to do that over. We have to do the start webinar. It's the one button I didn't push.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did such a nice job. Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Myositis Association's Empowerment Clinic on Self-Hypnosis for Pain Management. My name is Rachel Bromley and I am TMA's Senior Manager of Patient Education, Support, and Advocacy. Today we have the honor of hosting Dr. Joyce Mills, founder of StoryPlay Global, award-winning play therapist, author of 8 books, and considered an expert in metaphorical interventions. Dr. Joyce Mills is an internationally recognized storyteller, consultant, workshop leader, program development specialist, and keynote speaker to medical, psychological, and educational organizations. With resiliency and creativity at its heart, Dr. Mills developed StoryPlay, a new Ericksonian indirective model of play therapy, helping children, adults, families, and communities heal from trauma and disaster. In addition to her training programs, Dr. Mills is a co-director of the Phoenix Institute of Ericksonian Therapy, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and a registered play therapy supervisor. Her books include Therapeutic Metaphors for Children and the Child Within, Reconnecting to the Magic of Life, Butterfly Wisdom, Little Tree, Gentle Willow, and Sammy the Elephant and Mr. Camel. Among her many awards, I do want to note that in 2014 in Paris, France, she was recognized for lifelong work and contributions to the field of multicultural hypnotherapy. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Mills.
Thank you. And as I said, chocolate.
And she loves
I
chocolate.
forgot to add that.
Yes, and she loves chocolate. Also joining us today is Fiona Ratkoff. Fiona is French and American and has been living in France since the age of 16. She has dedicated her professional life to the French national education system. She developed dermatomyositis with MDA5 antibody in 2014 at the age of 48. Her first symptoms appeared very quickly in a matter of weeks and were linked to muscle weakness and swollen joints. ILD set in a year later. As the pain clinic had a 1-year waiting list, she decided to look into the functioning of pain and alternative ways of dealing with it. She turned to self-hypnosis because it was positive, efficient, depended on no one, could be done anytime and anywhere, and was free. She also did not want to take more drugs than the ones she was already dealing with because self-hypnosis has no side effects. That is an extra plus. Among the books that helped her were 2 of the books written by Dr. Joyce Mills, Therapeutic Metaphors for Children and The Child Within, as well as Reconnecting to the Magic of Life. Thank you for being here, Fiona.
Thank you very much. And I love chocolate too.
So we're all in agreement. We're good for chocolate. We might have to have some after this webinar. One moment. So Dr. Mills, let's start with you. Tell us exactly what is self-hypnosis?
That's a big question. The way I think about it is self-hypnosis is really utilizing our whatever is around us and whatever is within us to bring us closer to our inner core of who we are. It helps us to disconnect from all the stimuli outside and helps us to come back to a place of comfort and peace within ourselves.
That's beautiful. How does it work?
You know, I don't know. I don't know. How does it work? It works. I'm not a neurophysiologist. All I know is that it works on a different center of the brain. It's we much more go into our right hemisphere. The left hemisphere is more of conscious mind. It figures things out. It wants to stay on the surface, and it plays with those words. Where the unconscious mind is like a pebble that you throw into a lake and it ripples. So the ripples bring a deeper, expansive meaning on an unconscious level. So one would just be on the conscious, the other would be kind of like floating in a river, but you're not asleep. It's not like you're asleep. It's a different phase. You're reaching another kind of consciousness that allows us to discover what is important for us and to bring it back to who we are, our individual being, which is why it's self-hypnosis. It's not everybody's hypnosis. It's self-hypnosis.
How did you get involved with self-hypnosis?
I started in 1979. I probably always was involved with self-hypnosis because as a little girl, I played, and play is hypnosis. You go into another state, and children go into a natural state when they're joyfully playing or when they want to escape something that is painful or something that is difficult. And so our body naturally goes into that state, a protective state, in order to receive the resources that we need to make it through. Now, in more conscious learning, I went and learned very much from Dr. Stephen Gilligan, and many years ago, and studied Ericksonian work in the 1970s, 1979. I began more formal, more formalized training, and it changed my life. It changed my life. It was as if a shade went up, like there's a shade come down. And when I went into that hypnotic place, the shade went up and it was like a light that bathed my body. And it brought such enormous comfort.
That's amazing. I do, full disclosure, I do have to share that when I had my children, first in 2004 and 2006, I did turn to self-hypnosis instead of Lamaze. So I am totally in favor of it. I had a very quiet birth. The only sound I made through 10 hours of labor was at the very end. And so I'm a firm believer. So thank you for being here, because I know that I don't have chronic pain, but it did help me with the pain of childbirth. So before we start talking about using it for pain management, what are some myths about hypnosis that you would like to debunk?
That you're under control of someone else, that it will alter your personality, that, I usually when I'm teaching, I'll say things like, you're going to jump like a chicken, or things like that. But basically, it's really, self-hypnosis the myth is that someone's doing something to you. And really, you are your own artist. You create your own trance. You welcome in the colors, the shapes, the sounds, everything that pleases you. And you're like opening that inner door in a very, very natural, comfortable way. The kind of hypnosis I do is Ericksonian. So it has an Ericksonian base. So it's really focused on bringing comfort, because the word comfort has a very different translation in the body than pain. So in some of the, I'm not saying it's wrong, never say something's wrong, whatever works for someone. But in self-hypnosis, what I would try to do is always help a person develop their comfort triggers, so to speak. What brings you comfort? Because they're used to what brings them pain. And I think that that's very, very important. That how we open up that window of what brings us comfort.
So you talk about words like trance, and people kind of think of being going under with hypnosis, but then some of the elements seem similar to meditation. How does this differ from meditation?
Well, some people say it's the same. I don't know that it is the same. I think in meditation, and I'm certainly not going to say my answer is the only answer. So I always say to people, experience it for yourself rather than reading about it. Experience it. But I think for me, when I'm meditating, I could be in a very deep state, but I'm also letting go of things. When I'm doing self-hypnosis, I'm altering something in my brain. I'm altering the messages that's not just in the brain, but in every cell and molecule of my body, so that I'm looking to bring comfort into areas that are not comfortable, that feel pain. But we can alter our, obviously in meditation, you can alter your blood pressure, you can alter your heart rate, you can alter these things. So there's a difference. There is a difference. I'm not an expert in that difference, but I know the difference is, one is more, I'm letting go. of stress. And the other is also, I'm also altering the messages that I'm being given within my body to bring comfort and a sense of ease to an area that is in pain.
I want to bring Fiona into the conversation right now because I know that she also does meditation. So for you, how does one serve you over the other? And are they in conjunction? Is it, I mean, how do you differentiate between, oh, this is something I need meditation for, and this is something that I need self-hypnosis for?
Well, for me, self-hypnosis is just bringing in all the beauty that I have. And meditation is more like I will need to relax. It's more like when I do practice yoga, I will practice meditation because I'll be thinking of every different part of my body, thinking, okay, I have to relax this and I have to relax that. But self-hypnosis, it's like going on holiday. Okay? Sometimes you need to relax, but sometimes you really need to be on holiday. You need that half an hour break. And so you bring in everything you need. So I'll give an example later, but that would be the main difference for me.
Right. So Dr. Mills, how would you say that self-hypnosis helps with pain?
How it helps with pain is that, again, it brings in I want to say, a different language. It's a different language. Pain is a language. It's a language of experience. It's not make-believe. It's not, it's physiological, but it could also be emotional, connected to that. So we rely on that. So what happens when we are in hypnotic, when we do self-hypnosis, very much like Fiona said, we are bringing in beauty. We are bringing in comfort. And so I wrote a book called A Bear Named Comfort. It isn't published, but I actually wrote it for a friend who was going through a very difficult time for chemotherapy. And I talked about a bear named Comfort and how he got his name, Comfort, because the word comfort elicits a different experience and it opens up pathways. I call them resiliency pathways. And we want those resiliency pathways open so it could receive the comfort that it needs to reduce the pain and also shift and change it. So, for example, if working with, when I was working, intensely, I was working with a lot of people who had a lot of amputees. And so it's different. I'm just talking about it right now, this experience. And so people would talk about pain management and, reducing the pain. And so I followed a lot of Dr. Erickson's work and I thought, okay, so I wonder what you can remember about the feeling of comfort. If it was, let's say, the person's right leg was amputated, I would talk about, I wonder what you remember about comfort in your left foot. And so they had to shift now. They had to put attention on that and on the left foot to bring comfort to the right foot. So it was like you're awakening resiliency pathways and letting them discover how they can do this for themselves in every single day, every day. So even if they are being asked about what's your pain level, they would first do some self-hypnosis also about their comfort level, and then being able to bring it over to into the area where they were experiencing pain. And it might not have been just an area, it could have been throughout the whole body. It could have been migrated through the whole body.
I want to, Fiona, that reminds me of something you talked to me about in the
MRI and the MRI.
Yes, you already know what I'm going to bring up because she has a perfect example for what you're talking about. So, and we'll get to your myositis journey a little bit later on, but let's just talk about the MRI experience you had.
So among, the multiple tests and everything, I was one day in an MRI and there was a problem with the machine and I was stuck for 45 minutes in the MRI. And I remember I was in a very painful situation and my arm was up, I was lying and I was feeling this intense pain in my shoulder, and it was just so intense. I was thinking, okay, there is no way I have to move. I have to get out of here. And I remembered Erickson, who I was thinking, okay, you've done all this self-hypnosis, you've read all these books. This is the time to use it. And I remembered how Erickson said, the pain is not everywhere. You're feeling it just in your shoulder. So is it on your little toe?
Yes.
No. And I started hyper concentrating on one toe and then going to the next toe and then going to the next toe and then going to the next toe. And then I did, the 5 toes on one foot, then the 5 toes on the other foot, then starting up the, the 2 feet, then up the legs, etc. And at one point I was thinking, okay, are you going to go up to the shoulder or not? And I thought, no, concentrate more on your legs. And at one point I went up to my shoulder and I thought, do I still feel this pain? And the pain was at 8. It was really high, 8 out of 10. And when I reached the shoulder, I felt 0 pain.
That's amazing.
Amazing. It was amazing.
So we're on that same exact same wavelength. This is the power of that, where many people, as will only focus on the pain and trying to reduce the pain but Dr. Erickson's brilliance, because of his own pain that he lived with for most of his life, he knew that there were other what I call them resiliency pathways, places within our body that feels comfort. And once we say that, like your little toe, the left on your left foot, and if someone says, and even if someone is, which is hopeful, Fiona, what you're saying too, is that when someone says, oh, I'm in so much pain, that's when self-hypnosis, when you can say, okay, what about my little toe on my left foot? Oh, and oftentimes I will tell you, I do something funny. It depends, is I have people, I had people paint their toenails, like paint something funny on their toenail, especially their big toe. So if you move your toes, okay, it gets your attention, and unless that's where the pain is. But if that's where the pain is, then you can also paint something on it, because you're putting a different visual. Instead of every time looking at your toes and you see pain, you might see something very funny.
I do it with my nail polish. I do it with my nail polish. I put petal roses color. And every time I look at my nails, unconsciously I know petals.
see, so this is the same, we're on this wonderful same wavelength, where we're bringing in the strengths that help reduce pain and bring comfort, because the ultimate goal, and that's the other thing for people to ask themselves when they are feeling that pain, you say, what would I like to feel? Or what would I like to see? Maybe you have to use another sense, visually, or maybe I want to hear my favorite music or the sound of a bird. You're using your sensory systems, right? I see Fiona shaking her head. Yeah, because you want to shift, pain is kinesthetic. It's kinesthetic. So when you use like self-hypnosis, you can dissociate. What's my favorite music? What do I like to listen to? And that's really important. What so that you can dissociate from it, but you're in charge of it. I know what I like to listen to. I know someone can say, oh, this is nice, relaxing music. It may not be relaxing music to me. It may not be comfortable. That's the beauty of self-hypnosis. You get to choose. You bring in all the resources. I actually, some of the things that, just quickly, is I have them create a little basket of comfort. And so they can just have a basket of comfort with their favorite stones or their favorite, kinds of things they like to touch, or colors, or whatever it is. And it's their basket of comfort. So every time they look at it, even if they don't use it, it's comfort. And I even have a whole bunch of stuff here. I mean,
We can tell in your background.
you can tell
see.
all kinds of things. Yeah. And rocks and shells and things. And that's another thing, another approach with the hypnosis is like, if you have sometimes people can't associate, not just say, well, if you have your little basket of comfort or anything that you look around wherever you are, like you said, Fiona, wherever we are, we don't have to be, we can be in a line somewhere. But if you have something and you can hold it, that immediately is a grounder. It grounds it. And you can say, oh, I can feel that in my hands right now. Oh, it's my favorite stone. I really like that. Oh, hello. Well, look at you. And you don't have to say it out loud. If you're if
you're waiting to get to Starbucks or something.
Yeah. But I think these things are really, really important. And also if you are waiting for a doctor's appointment and you're feeling worried, you have your little toys. You have your little hypnotic friends, self-hypnotic friends. I always think of them as friends. And they remind me of something joyful. And then it changes my physiology, it changes breathing. And so there's many things each of us can develop,
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us, and especially Fiona. Let's talk a little bit about your myositis journey. How did your diagnosis come about? Let's start there.
Well, it started almost 8 years ago. And when the first symptoms arrived, and I went to the hospital, it went very, very fast. In a matter of 3 weeks, I was completely paralyzed. I couldn't move my arms, my legs, or my neck. The doctors did not know what I had, and they gave me prednisone. I was diagnosed with something like the flu. That's what they wrote. Flu-like symptoms. Sent home with prednisone. And I was told not to move too much. And so I could walk again because of the prednisone, but still it was absolutely awful. And they had told me that I had an autoimmune disease, but that was it. So I started really going into research, and thanks to the Myositis Association and understanding myositis, I realized I had dermatomyositis. So I asked the doctors at the hospital, that was in January, a few months later, test me for dermatomyositis. They tested me and it was MDA positive, MDA5 positive. So that was terrible. And doctors still said I didn't have it. Didn't have dermatomyositis. And so I went to see a lung specialist, so that I have MDA5, I might have ILD soon. And she was really great. And, 1 year later, the ILD started. So that was really terrible. Anyway, just to cut it short, I had massive pain all over the place. And when, as you said, when I asked to meet doctors at a pain clinic, there was a 1-year waiting list. So that was just too much. And so I started looking on the internet, what can I find, to help deal with the pain? And the doctors wanted to give me ketamine, and I didn't want to take that. And so I started reading about, what is pain? How does pain work? And I started reading that pain is like, the more you have pain, the more you have pain. And so you sort of have to trick your mind into thinking about something else to close that water tap of the pain always coming out. And so I started reading a lot about hypnosis, self-hypnosis, reading texts, and then went to see doctors who, can you teach me how to do it to myself? And nobody wanted to do it. They said, well, self-hypnosis and hypnosis is the same thing. And I said, well, no, because my pain won't wait, your 3-week waiting list. My thing is right now, I want to deal with it when I want. And so I started reading books on how to write my own text and then, innovating, getting to write what I want for myself. And so that was my journey to self-hypnosis. And then it really, the person I was at the beginning of the disease was not me. It was awful. I was in pain a lot. And I was a very positive person. And self-hypnosis brought me back that joy of life and all that. So it was just fantastic.
It sounds like that shade that she's talking about, the window shade where there's darkness and then all of a sudden there's light again.
I realized while I was reading the books that I was in self-hypnosis while I was under pain. But the thing is, when you practice self-hypnosis consciously, you can orient your thoughts towards what you really need. And so you think about the 5 senses, just as Joyce Mills said. So you think, okay, what do you love to touch? What do you love to smell? What do you love to hear? What do you love to see? All the 5 senses, and you start writing down all those wonderful things. And then, that's fantastic.
Yeah, can I just share something too
course.
with what you're saying, with what you're saying now, because we're talking about this, and I can share this, just leave names out, but when I was teaching a webinar, there's someone in my group who had extreme advanced painful crippling arthritis, and she's a young woman, she's beautiful, but her niece was in the hospital the same time, and her niece was going through advanced chemotherapy treatments. So my colleague who was studying with me, she was just amazing. She would visit her niece in the hospital, and she would come and share what she was learning about interspersed suggestions. If we know Ericksonian work, we know the suggestions, right? This is what I mean by words have power. Okay. The suggestions have power. So we were studying about this in the training. And she went back and she's visiting her niece in the hospital, who was in very advanced care. And her niece got this incredible idea. 15 years old. She looked at the chemo bag. She looked at what they said. One says poison with a skull and crossbone on it. Then all the pain management, all the messages that are medically put there. And she got this incredible idea. She created what she called positivity pouches, where she took a pillowcase. And she had a pretty pillowcase, and she turned, like if this was a pillowcase, so she turned the bottom part over like this. This is all now. Now you have to get, when you're doing something, you are in self-hypnosis. When you're doing creativity, so she took, let's say, I'm not being very fancy, just came up right now. And what she did is she put all positive messages inside. And then she took 2-sided, the tape, and she cut out like flowers that said hope, words that made her laugh, things that made her feel good, hearts, all kinds of positive messages. And it became a whole thing. She then took the positivity pouch and it went over the chemotherapy bag. So when she was getting intravenous, when she was getting the medication, what she was looking at was beautiful messages.
Oh, nice.
That's a wonderful example.
And she opened the back so the nurses could come in and see how much was being used. So this is like, we say this is like, and so she started making them for other kids in the hospital. And we presented it at a conference. But what is self-hypnosis? when you are dissociated from the actual pain and you are in process of bringing in what is, like what Fiona is saying, comfort, her nails with the petals on it, I won't forget that, the different things that we can do. It's not self-hypnosis like you're asleep. If anything, your conscious mind went away, and your unconscious mind is just doing wonderful creative things to bring joy and comfort, which of course reduces also the effects of an illness.
Yeah.
We know this. I mean, look at you now.
You are a walking example.
Yeah.
So Fiona, let's talk about how we've touched on a few techniques, but let's talk about the main ones you use to really put yourself in self-hypnosis.
Okay, so I used one, which was, I gave one example, which was I had intense pain. So that's one that really works. There's one there. I'm going to give 3 other examples. There's one which is when I have, general pain all over. I don't have it anymore, but I used to have it, but I still use the technique. Is I imagine that I'm taking a cloud. Okay. And
You're driving a little cloud. Boop, boop,
I'm
boop.
driving a little cloud, and as I lean backwards, it goes forward. So I'm taking this little cloud to an island, and when I'm on this island, I feel the 5 senses. And so I just imagine what is on this island. And so I'll feel the sand in my toes. I'll hear, the sound of the water, etc. So this is one thing that I use when I just want to go somewhere else. So for instance, today I had a long day, a very long day, and I took a half-hour break today, and I knew that I was going to take this half-hour break. And I didn't go on my island, but I went on where I usually go for the summer holidays. And so I imagined I was in Italy, that it was super, super hot, and I really needed to go in the swimming pool because it was nice and cool. And I started, feeling flushed because of the heat. And I dipped in the pool. And after half an hour in Tuscany, I just came back and I was, fine for the rest of the day. So this is number 1. The number 2 is that it's a technique that I've used when, it doesn't rain, but it pours and nothing is going well. And so I take a ladder, I go a staircase. I go down 10 steps. I really feel all the different details of the steps. And at the bottom of the steps, there's this garden. And originally at the beginning, this garden was covered with weeds. And I had to take off all the weeds, and I would grow 10 rows of flowers. And each row corresponded to what I needed. So what I did is I thought, okay, how am I feeling? So I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling fed up. I'm feeling, I had all these problems. And I said, okay, you note them down on a piece of paper and you write the opposite. So I wrote down the opposite, ripped up the piece of paper, threw away was negative, kept the positive, and then for each positive thing, associated 5 senses. And then when I was in self-hypnosis, I went down the 10 steps. I said, okay, today you're going to concentrate on the first row. So what I needed was joy. So it was just, okay, I'm taking the weeds out of this thing and I'm going to plant these flowers, which are joy. And then the next day I went down again, took off the weeds of the second row and started planting the second row of flowers. And then I went down the 3rd day, started the 3rd row. And the 3rd row was maybe, I don't know, maybe it was, I don't remember what it was, but after a while, the 10 rows were done. And sometimes when I feel overwhelmed, I still do it today. Sometimes when when you feel overwhelmed, I go down those 10 steps, I go in my garden and I think, oh, there's a little weed there. You haven't been taking care of your garden. Let's pull this weed out, and you have to water those flowers a little. And I just feel fantastic. So that was the second one. And the third one that I use is when I wake up in the middle of the night. And so this is an Erickson thing, when you concentrate on a weed, on a piece of grass, and you think of all the different colors of the piece of grass, and it just makes you concentrate so much on something that you forget the rest. And so the technique I use is 3-2-1. And so I'm in bed and I have to feel 3 different things. Then I have to hear 3 different things. So in the middle of the night, it's not easy to hear 3 different things if you live in the neighborhood, but it has to be 3 different. And then you have to see 3 things in your mind. And then you have to feel 2 different things. You have to hear 2 other different things. And then you have to see 2 other different things. And I have never been to one. Because after
you never make it to one?
No, I never make it to one, because after you're supposed to go to one and you have to, feel something else and then hear something else, but you're just so concentrated on, other things that you just stop thinking. And I thanks to these techniques, I have never had any problems falling asleep.
Beautiful.
So that was other techniques of self-hypnosis, but it's always based on, concentrating your mind on what you really need and what is absolutely wonderful. And you have to just imagine, the most fantastic place. And the brain, what's incredible, it doesn't know the difference. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're on holiday in your brain and when you're thinking about it, you can be there and it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Beautiful.
I don't know if some people have this problem trying to do self-hypnosis as they do with a meditation, but what do you do when your mind wanders?
Mine? Oh, so I know that my mind is like a kite and that it will wander off. And I just tell myself, well, that's okay. And I'll think about, okay, what was the icing on the cake? Was it chocolate or was it raspberry?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's okay if it wanders. But usually when you're so concentrated, I think it's at the beginning where that happens more. And after, you just tell yourself your story and it doesn't wander as much probably as you get used to it. But it's okay if it wanders. For me, it's normal. It's just normal for the brain to wander because that's how it works.
Yeah, so it's more of a gentle observation and then coming back.
Yeah, but
and the way you can sit. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dr. Mills.
No, it's building on what Fiona just said is that, the conscious mind, like we say, the conscious mind can go in many directions. The unconscious mind is here to bring you what you need. Yeah. So I could say to myself, my conscious mind, okay, there's your busy brain going, okay, where do you want to go? You've got all this list to do. And all I need is my unconscious mind. While my conscious mind is busy, my unconscious mind can see exactly what I want to see right now. Oh, there's a flower. How many petals are on that flower? I wonder what it wants to show me now. I'm speaking out loud. I may speak out loud to myself too, but that's the idea, is you give your conscious mind busy, go get busy, do whatever you need to do. Like Fiona was saying in that way. But, oh, wait a minute. There's my unconscious. Oh, wait, how did I get on this road? I wonder what I'll discover. So you're opening yourself, like Fiona is saying, to what you want, to what is going to nurture you, and to what is going to bring you joy or comfort or some form of rest, or also curiosity.
If speaking of curiosity, if anyone in the audience would like to ask a question of either Fiona or Dr. Mills, feel free to put it in the Q&A box. We will have time for Q&A in a little bit. I don't know how this question will apply very well, Fiona. First off, I need to let everybody know you are practicing self-hypnosis about twice a day, correct?
Well, I usually do it in the morning and in the evening. because it's just a habit that I have, and just to create a beautiful world in the morning and then to create a beautiful world in the evening. So I usually do it twice a day, but I can just do it anytime. Like today, I thought I knew I was going to have a long day. So I'll be thinking, okay, I'm going to do it now. It can last a minute. It can last 25 minutes. It's really according to what I need. I know it's a resource that I have anytime, anywhere, but usually I do it twice a day because it's just part of a habit, which is a wonderful habit that I love. So.
It sounds like it. I am a little torn because it's such a, I feel like, and I don't know if other people feel the same way, but in some respect, it's just like self-care. You have to feel like I deserve to feel good. It's okay to feel good. I don't have to problem solve all the time. And in doing that, sometimes giving our brain that rest, that solution to that problem can maybe come later. So, I mean, it's because it feels like daydreaming, right?
Well, it is. But the thing is, I was the type of person, a perfectionist, working a lot, etc. And sometimes your mind can be too much focused on worrying and stop problem solving and all that. And so this is what that the hour when you wake up in the morning and the hour before you go to sleep is when really you can change, how you feel. It's really two important parts of the day. And so if you wake up in the morning and you start thinking about all your problems, well, there's a big chance that they're going to happen. Now, if you wake up in the morning and you think about all, the positive things that can happen that day, and also you think, okay, I write poetry when under self-hypnosis, it's because when you write, you are in self-hypnosis. So I write poetry, and sometimes I take poems which have a lot of negative, and I said, okay, I'm just going to turn everything into positive. So I use the same poem, but I change all the negative into positive. And then you are under self-hypnosis and you're bringing the beauty that you need. So you think, what do you need? That's not the word you want. You want another word. And it's just, you feel so amazing. And it's just, and it sort of trickles during your whole day. Mm-hmm. And it's there. And then I've had, experiences where there was the word joy that I use in the text in the morning. And then after I did something fantastic. And at the end of the day, I thought, where did this word joy come from? And it was because of the self-hypnosis in the morning. And there are coincidences because you create, through your unconscious mind, you create what you want to create, which is incredible.
Yeah. I think about it like a spiritual vitamin. Like we take our vitamins, we take our supplements, we take all these things. Well, like what you're saying, when you said that, your word, and the word becomes like that. It becomes like a vitamin that you take. I use the word spiritual vitamins. I need my spiritual vitamins. And it nurtures me because, when you take a vitamin, you never know where it's going to go. I mean, your body absorbs it where it needs to be, or supplement. Even though it might be for one particular thing, it's for something, it's going to go where it's needed. So, kind of like you're just saying the word joy, and that immediately makes me think of joy, right? But if it was a different kind of a word, I mean, this is how we are. So those of us who do deal with chronic pain, you need to also be in charge of those words that come at you, and how, like you say, you can change them so that it could be nurturing, because that's what you want to do. And that's what healing is. Healing is nurturing. It's nurturing. It's not fixing. It's not fixing. It's healing.
Watering the flower that's in you. I like the idea of beauty. When you're under self-hypnosis, you can just feel, when you're slightly under trance, you just feel the beauty all over the body. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Fiona, can you share the book you have with you right there about?
So originally, because I wanted to understand what pain was, because I've been reading so much about my disease, I was thinking, okay, you have to concentrate on something else. So originally what I bought is this book, Hypnosis for Chronic Pain Management. And what was interesting in this book is it made me understand how pain works with the brain. So this is a book for therapists. It's difficult to understand But if you're like me and you really need to understand, this is an excellent book. And what's interesting with this book is that there's a workbook with self-hypnosis text that you can adapt according to the pain you are feeling. And so you read the script, you add what you need in the script, and then you can read it to yourself. So this was a very important book for me, but I realized that it was too, well, I mean, it was a fantastic book, okay, but it was too cold. It wasn't poetic enough. There wasn't enough beauty for me. And so that's when I started, adapting the text, seeing how do they write those texts, the doctors, the induction, et cetera, and then creating my own text.
Beautiful.
Good. And I put those in the chat box along with 2 videos at the top of the chat box. You guys can copy and paste those. They are, you want to talk about those videos a little bit, Fiona?
Well, when Marissa Peer, so she's a British hypnotherapist, and she talks about how she calls it rapid transformational therapy. And she says there is no other job where, you're feeling pain and the doctor will tell you, okay, well, you have to see me twice a week for the next 10 years. And so she says she's for rapid transformational therapy. And she explains the power of words, okay, just as Joyce Mill says, and how words really affect the body. And self-hypnosis is a means to bring to yourself what you need. And in one of the videos, what's really interesting is she has 2 of her assistants, and she explains how to go in self-hypnosis. So it's physically, how do you go in self-hypnosis? Because you don't really find it in books. There's a natural way of going into self-hypnosis, but there are different depths of self-hypnosis. And so in one of the videos that I put, she explains the 10 stairs to go down. So that's the one that I use very often when I really want to go deep down. And in the video, you see her with her 2 assistants and how she tells them physically to go into self-hypnosis and what are the physical reactions they feel. And that's why I wanted to share this video. So her name is Marissa Peer, and she's always very, very positive of, using positive words to change who you are. And it's a video and audio. So that's interesting. Also, if you listen to self-hypnosis audio, use headphones because you'll be more sensitive to it and it works better.
How do you know that you are doing it right?
Originally, I didn't know. I was completely lost and doctors didn't help me. So it's just because from reading the books, I could guess, like my arms sort of, levitates a little. You can feel like your arm sort of goes like this. Oh, and then you're under self-hypnosis. But you don't necessarily have to go through that to feel self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis is just a feeling of, a general well-being. And it's a natural state. It's not, you don't necessarily have to put yourself under self-hypnosis to be under self-hypnosis, because it's a natural state when you're driving, when you're thinking about something else. When I was a little girl, I didn't go to school for several years, and it was very difficult for me, but I would walk in nature, and just walking in nature and looking at nature is a form of self-hypnosis.
Sure.
So thinking about, am I under self-hypnosis or not, is something that I lived through because I really wanted to do it. And I was wondering if I was doing right. But when I realized that it was a natural state, it helped. But then after understanding that there are different types, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, and that exists too, that helped me too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to add to that, Dr. Mills?
Well, I'm just listening. We're very much on the same wavelength, it's and yeah, it's a common to everyday trance. I mean, I think it was Dr. Erickson that really brought that to the forefront, that we live in a common day, everyday trance all the time. Now, how do you access that when you want to, change something that you're dealing with, whether it's an emotional, whether it's physical, physical pain, emotional pain, and so forth, or whether you have to go through procedures, what's a common day, everyday trance? Well, we do it every day. Like Fiona was saying, we miss a freeway exit. We're thinking of something else, or when you're watching a really wonderful movie, and then all of a sudden you say, wait a minute, there been 2 hours. We just sat down. I just got my popcorn here. What's going on? Or the other way is when something's horrible and you're saying, oh, is this ever going to end, kind of thing. And yet it's the same time. It's the same time frame. So it's time disorientation. So we have a time disorientation, and that's another way we could tell if we're in self-hypnosis, because we can do something and then all of a sudden think that it feels like we were only experiencing self-hypnosis for, like, let's say a minute, but then we realize, oh my goodness, it's like 15 minutes or something. Or the opposite. Sometimes it feels like a long time, and yet it was only a minute. So that's an element of time disorientation that we can tell. There's something that shifted. And I like the word shift. I mean, I think the word shift is always a good one. Just like you were describing about going down the stairs, you're really shifting yourself into another place. You're not making yourself go anywhere. And the beauty of self-hypnosis, you're the one guiding it. You're guiding it. And so it's very caring, it's very nurturing. And it's also empowering. Don't you feel, Fiona? It's empowering.
Completely. There's just one advice I wanted to give is, if you start practicing, you really have to let the people around you know that they have to leave you practice. Like, you need to have 25 minutes to yourself. You turn off your cell phone, you close the door, the cats, the dogs are out of the room. Nobody can interrupt you. Because you need that time to concentrate, for yourself. And so that's something that I would advise, because if you're interrupted all the time, if the phone is ringing, well, then it's more difficult to get in, to concentrate. So give yourself the 25 minutes once a day to do that.
Do you have any advice for Dr. Mills, for people who are using or wanting to use self-hypnosis for pain management?
Other than what we've talked about?
Yes, additional.
I don't know. I think that to experience, give yourself a gift. There's everything to gain. There's everything to gain. It's like going into a new art gallery, or a new pathway, and you don't know what you're going to discover. You don't know, but you go with an open heart to receive that which, and this is real important when we talk about words, that which will help me the most. So it's not like, oh, I'm just going to kind of go into this place and discover something. I'm going to go into a place that can help me discover something important that will be helpful for me. Why I say that is that if we have a critical mind, we've noticed this, a lot of times people will go into that altered place, and then what happens is they'll say, oh, well, see, I did everything wrong, and that's why I'm okay. Now I just got, the self-criticism, right? So that's why you want post-hypnotic suggestions are critical. Interspersed suggestions is what Erickson talked about, how we intersperse what we want. And that, Fiona, you were saying that same thing, that we're focused on what we want. And that is what's important. So even in your gardening and your weeds, you might have noticed all that, but do I want that? Oh, okay. No, I want to pull those weeds. I want to put in what I want. And that's the beauty of self-hypnosis. It's what you want, what you hope for. And also, when you talk, just very quickly, when you say about joy, I also kind of very much on the same line as Fiona too, about the color of joy, the sound of joy, the feeling of joy, the texture, everything about it. You want to bring all the taste, all the smells, all the senses.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Mills. Thank you, Fiona. We appreciate you. And I want to thank the audience for being here as well. Stay tuned for May 19th. We will have another Ask the Doc. It'll be Dr. Rohit Agarwal, and that will be May 19th, Thursday, May 19th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we also have our virtual summit which is Saturday, May 21st from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so you can register online. And once you register, even if you can't attend the event, you will have access to the content for up to 30 days. So you can register on our website, www.myositis.org. For Rachel Bromley on TMA, have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for this opportunity.
We appreciate you. Have a good day.